What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. And in today's video, I have another trade recap for you guys. I actually have two trades that I want to go over with you guys. And in this video, there's going to literally be something for everybody. I took a trade during New York AM, and I also did take a trade overnight. I do just want to show you guys how simple continuations are, especially when you use LR. You can trade the 1 minute, the 5 minute, the 15 minute. You can trade whatever time frame you want when you trade continuations. It's that easy. I don't want to waste your guys' time too much. So if you guys do enjoy the video and you learn something, go ahead and subscribe and also like the video. I try to post sauce for you guys like this as much as possible. So also, if you guys do have any questions for me at all, feel free to join the free Discord down below and I will answer them there. But with all that being said, guys, let's get straight into today's trade recap. I do believe I made just under $7,000 already this week, so I'm well above 5 figures already for this month. Of course, as a full-time day trader, I try to be as consistent as possible. So of course, that means staying on top of my expenses and of course being consistent month to month when I trade. And of course, if I'm not as consistent, what do? We take a break and we limit our frequency. All right, but enough of that. Let's get into the recap. Okay, so to start things off, we're going to be looking here at Monday, the trade that I took during New York session. So coming into the day, the first thing I want you guys to notice on the higher time frame, again, I'm always going to start on the 5 minute. I don't like starting on the 1 minute. You guys should always want to see clean delivery towards DOLs. Then you should be scaling down to the 1 minute if you're going to trade the 1 minute. In this example, I did take a trade on the 1 minute, but I'm going to show you guys how I waited on the 5 minute. Then I scaled down to the 1 minute to get a clean trade. So the one thing I noticed we do off market open is we of course tap this 5 minute gap. I don't really care about that. The one thing I'm looking at is the fact that we took out these clean DOLs at market open. The fact that we took these clean DOLs at market open, that means I'm going to need more information, right? This is not obviously a candle I want to short. That's not the kind of displacement or continuations that I trade, right? A lot of people are going to say, oh, isn't this LRL over here? Yes, it's LR, right? I do have a rule where you're not supposed to trade the first 10 minutes of the session, but sometimes you can fade that rule. But in this case, you don't want to fade that. You don't want to fade that rule here. Why? Because we took out a clean draw on liquidity and we're not clearly heading towards these LR lows over here. Trust me when I say if we are going to go for these LR lows, we are going to give you more displacement down there. We're not going to just take it in the next candle, I promise. Nonetheless, as you continue out through price action, you can see the 5 minute starts to build up bullish, right? We start to go a little bit higher. And this is where a lot of people tend to get stuck. A lot of people will see some displacement like this on the 5 minute and then they'll start to scale down, right? Especially because they have like this 930 wick right here, a nice 930 high that they can take their strong drawn liquidity, trade towards whatever. But let me give you guys a few more things that you can look for, especially when you're trying to take trades to clean DOLs. Number one is when I talk about low resistance liquidity, right? I usually want to see like equal highs, relative equal highs, really steep, like far away separated price action, right? I want to see a high over here and then like 3 hours later, I want to see another high get edged and those be like relative equal highs. You can see all these right here. If I'm on the 5 minute time frame, it's like 15, 20 minutes. All these are relatively close apart. So it's pretty steep, right? It's kind of like a high resistance move. So if I'm going to target these external draws, so let me get rid of this. If I'm targeting something up here, right? If I'm saying this is my clean external draw, I need to see a clean flip on the 5 minute. So if I want to target something up here, because I'm saying this is steep draws on liquidity, I need to see 5 minute displacement. I need to see the 5 minute come up here, close above here. Then I can start to see about trading back towards this high because then I know there's real structure here. Here on the 5 minute, you have absolutely no structure whatsoever and you have a steep drawn liquidity that's not yet confirmed whatsoever. And the main reason I wanted to go over this is because one thing I talk about is, oh, you can scale down and then you can take it off this 1 minute gap. But in this scenario, this would have failed, right? You would have had a horrible trade. And the reason for that is because you are simply just too early, right? One, you are lacking the external drawn liquidity, you are lacking the structure, but now you are also lacking the LRL. What is one thing we trade to? I trade to LRL. What's one thing I want to see? I want to see them cleanly separated, right? Something like this honestly isn't even bad, but I want to see that over here. I have nothing like that over here. You can see we have a fall off. We have one retrace. That one retrace sweeps a high, right? So if I look internally here, we sweep this high at market open into that 5 minute gap that we mentioned. We took out that draw on liquidity, but overall the higher time frame took that leading draw on liquidity. So now we could be due for another retrace, but you also need to remember that we are lacking LRL. So you need to see some sort of either clean displacement on the higher time frame or some sort of flip back towards LRL. I do also want to note that this isn't any sort of V flip. Like when we talk about V flips, like when you have a Judas manipulation, that sort of thing, right? If this is the Judas where we take out that manipulation low and we're V flipping, this is really not that clean of a V flip either, right? If I were to also show you the next thing I want to talk to you guys about is ES. Look at how shit ES looks, right? If you guys want to take better trades, wait for ES to clean up as well. So in my eyes, the reason I waited for this trade, the reason you guys could have avoided this loss as well, was just if you simply, one, looked at ES, two, if you also realize that the 5 minute just has absolutely no structure. Look, if I were to show you ES, can you confidently tell me where price action is going to go looking at price action like this, right? I couldn't do it, right? So why am I going to take a candle like this on NQ that's also lacking draws and liquidity, that also took a leading draw. I know we can edge draws. And on top of all that, we have a high resistance move and it's a no news Monday. Okay, right? Again, so when you have all these paired together, you know no news Monday is probably not going to deliver to the moon, right? So you're expecting price action to be a little bit slower, choppy. All these things, when you have these things in the back of your head, is going to help you know when to not take a trade. When I'm looking at things like when I see ES, when I remember it's a no news Monday, when I realize we have a pretty high resistance move, right? I can just wait for more structure, right? If we go to these highs up here, I can wait. Like, bro, if we get another 5-minute candle out of here, I will get still a really good entry back out of here. Like I promise, I will still not have a late entry. But as you can see here, we deeply retrace as I play out a few candles. It is not a good entry whatsoever. And it's just because the higher time frame has no structure and it doesn't really have any clean draws and liquidity. And also pair that with your timing. Your timing can also just be off as well. So now I'm going to show you guys what I took and why I thought it was an A+ trade and how I extended it for a few extra RR. Okay, now that we have somewhat of a retrace and now we have engineered LR, right? Now I'm going to put something in your guys' head. Remember, at open, what did we do? We took the one clean draw lower, at least if we don't get more higher time frame displacement. If we got, like, say, another clean candle down, we had LR down there. But clearly, we're just chopping around, so we don't want to go down there, right? So what did we do? We took that clean draw. Now we had a retrace. We left LR. If we flip back towards that LR, what can I assume this low to be? I can assume this to be my high resistance low. I can assume this to be my high time frame low, my protected low, right? The one that got swept. So now if you still wanted to take a trade and you were confident in it, now I can look for these things, right? I mentioned it in the Discord, but there was this tiny little inverse. But even if you didn't like that, sometimes I don't like to use tiny inverses like that. I was more so confident, of course, in the DOL. But then you have this one that got inverse, right? You have a fair value gap that gets inverse. I like to use those as reclaimed fair value gaps. So once we close back above that, obviously we're not using that inverse, right? We can still use that as support. And on top of that, now we also had 10 a.m. open. So what can I expect 10 a.m. open to do? I can expect 10 a.m. open to wick down, put in the bottom wick of that 4 hour, or just manipulate down with its open back into this reclaimed inverse or back into this old IFEG. I got a late entry mainly because I wanted to see that we were actually going to respect these IFEGs. Once I saw that 10 a.m. was just straight wicking off of it, that's when I just took a market fill. I literally got entered like right here, just put my stops back at these lows because again, I don't want a late entry because why? I know that my confident DOLs are something like this and something like this because this is 930 high and this is the edge draw on liquidity for LRL. And for the people that are going to ask what I was targeting, I was just targeting this 1 minute untapped gap above right here as well. But my whole thing as well is if we're going to continue this higher time frame downtrend, you can see it's just been up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. If we're going to continue that here and continue the LRL move, right, then this should be still a protected high. If this right here is going to be my protected high and we already edged here, we should not resweep this high. It makes absolutely no sense for us to resweep this high. This is why you hear me say we should flush past this high because it makes no sense for us to leave this swept high, resweep this, and then continue lower, right? If the higher time frame is continuing bearish and we're continuing to make trendline liquidity, this should be just the next high. We should not be flipping back towards this high. So if we take this high, that's why I'm expecting we take this high because it's obviously not protected because it's not LRL. And what I mean by it not being LRL, of course it's LRL, that's what I'm trading to. But what I mean is we didn't leave it for later, right? If we continue to dump and we left these LRL highs, then we know that's obviously LRL for later. And then obviously we compare that with the lower lows that we were going to target on the higher time frame, but we're not going for that. We're clearly going for these internal LR draws that we've already created. And the reason I am telling you guys all of this is because this is where you should go break even, because if we take this high, the next high we should take without any sort of retrace back to your entry should be this next high because we should flush past it because it's not a protected high. That's the point I'm trying to get across. And then of course, why I was so confident in this trade as well, you can also see what is ES doing. ES is starting to clean up and it's also starting to follow as well. Again, my entry was a little bit before this, so that's why the displacement looks a little bit late, but you can see we wick off of this. We're respecting this 1 minute gap and we're clearly heading for some of these LRL highs that we also have on ES. So again, I waited for ES to clean up. I waited for the draws and liquidity to clean up as well. We had actual LRL. I waited for an actual entry trigger. I didn't just take a retrace on the 5 minute with no structure, right? We had a 5 minute retrace. After that retrace, we had another flip, 10 a.m. opened right into some inverses, a reclaimed fair value gap. And then I just targeted the LRL that we had already created, the 930 wick. All those were super, super clean draws and liquidity, but you have to be patient. See where the higher time frame wants to go. See if we're going to chop, see if we're actually going to deliver towards those DOLs. So as far as how I manage this position, right, you're going to see right here, we do get a deep retrace. This is why I say don't go break even so quickly, right? Because we should take out this high. It doesn't make sense for us to keep engineering low resistance liquidity. If we were going to engineer it, this would have been the engineered draw, and we should have just kept displacing past these lows right here. Since we are flipping back towards these highs, I don't want to go break even until we take out this internal high, because I know we should just flush straight past those. And you can see, what do we wick straight back off of near your entry? Straight off of that reclaim for value gap. Again, just account for your stop loss towards these lows. We're just going to retrace off of this gap or the inverse, something like that. You can see we respected the inverse first, then the reclaimed inverse, and then we just kept going higher. And then what do you know, right after that, of course, we popped straight past that high to the 1 minute untapped gap. I did move my RR a little bit just because the volume was really good. I got filled like literally at the top right here. So this was a really clean trade just because I also did let my winners run. It was a really, really nice trade. I also did notice it a little bit later, but you could have also added in, this also isn't bad displacement. Something like this you could have taken to these highs, but in my opinion, the RR wasn't there. But the idea for like some evals or maybe even add in something like that would have also been clean. You could see it just cleanly displaces straight there, straight off the 1 minute for value gap, CE straight to those equal highs, right? Once the draws and liquidity are established and there's clean displacement, that's when you're going to get those clean trades. Nonetheless, that is the trade that I did take on Monday. Not the cleanest price action, but if you guys know how to read price action, you guys can take trades like this every single day, but you need to be patient, right? You need to see what ES is doing, what's NQ doing, where are my draws and liquidity? Do we have any draws and liquidity? You need to pay attention to all of those things. Okay, so for the next trade that I want to go over, this was the trade that I did take overnight. It was still very, very clean, a lot to go over. So let's just get straight into it. First things first, what am I always going to follow? I want to follow the volume, right? You can clearly see we're heavily displacing. This right here is a lot of volume for an overnight session. This is really, really clean. This is exactly what I'm looking for. But of course, whenever I see volume, there's another thing I need to see. I need to make sure, of course, that I obviously have draws and liquidity. If I don't have draws and liquidity, what are we going to continue to do? Probably just continue to chop around, edge draws and liquidity, all of that. But you can see, what do we have above right here? We got some nice Blake LR, right? We got it sitting right here, LRL right there, just mark it out. And then again, what do I always talk about? If we are displacing towards a draw on liquidity, right? Like let's say you guys really, really like this candle. I'm not top blasting this shit. Okay, you guys got to understand. Yes, these are clean draws on liquidity, but the odds of us running it within the next candle are very, very slim. And if we do, that means the higher time frame is moving, okay? If I get another fat 5 minute candle here, that means the 15 minute probably looks good. And then I can look to see what's up here, right? If there's clean draws and liquidity. But in this case, right, I'm looking to see, is this gonna become a 5 minute gap? If it doesn't become a 5 minute gap, maybe I can just look for an entry on the one, or I'll probably sit this out. But in this case, it does become a 5 minute gap. And then what happens? We retrace into said 5 minute gap. We retrace right there. It's a heavy displacement right there. Again, what am I gonna use? I like to use these a lot, as you guys can tell, but this got inverse. Again, you can see we're reclaiming it. So I did take a limit kind of just like right here, or like I didn't really limit it. I took like a market order or some shit like that. I did want to limit, but because the retrace happened so fast, I did not get a limit out of it. But of course, I just put my stop loss below that 5 minute gap. I'm allowing, if we do retrace a little bit lower, right? If we turtle soup these lows, go tap CE of this 5 minute gap, whatever price wants to do, I'm accounting for that with my stop loss. But I know I have a decent entry towards these clean draws and liquidity, right? This is still 1.94R. And I'm going to show you guys how I mitigated risk as well during this trade, so that way I wasn't risking as much as we kept moving. So you can see here, there's that fast retrace that we're talking about. You can see it had literally no opening wick. That's why I said I kind of just marketed it. I think I even had like maybe even a better entry because I marketed it. I literally did not have time to get like a good fill, whatever. But either way, after a few candles, we start to really, really move, right? You can see we even leave a breakaway gap. Breakaway gaps are really good. That means price action is really going to fly. So there's a few things, right? Once we started to leave it here and I saw that we had a breakaway gap, that's when I really wanted to mitigate to this low. I said, even if we tap this, we should not go back to this low. We're clearly leaving this 5 minute gap. Now, obviously, once we take this high, this is where I want to go break even. We should not go there. You could also trail to this breakaway gap, but it's pretty much a winning day. Also my break even. So it's pretty much the same exact thing. And then of course, what should we do if we're not going to keep leaving LRL? If the higher time frame wants to leave LRL and keep engineering LRL, we can 100% sweep this and go back. That's why you obviously trail. But if I'm obviously on the right side, we should just push towards these highs. I believe we kept going past these as well because the volume was really clean, but you can see one little retrace and then I believe we just go straight there. Oh no, it's right here. This is the manipulation leg. Once we get one little manipulation leg, it's straight to this drawn liquidity. It was super fucking fast. Like it was insane volume. And one thing you guys are going to notice, even though this is an overnight trade, this still wasn't relatively that long of a trade. That's how you know you're on side. One thing I want you guys to pay attention to here is look at these overnight candles, right? You can see very slow, right? Obviously we don't want to trade these, but then look at the visible difference, okay? Obviously, we saw the 5 minute candle, but look at the visible difference on these 1 minute candles, okay? These are so small. They're lackadaisical. I trade volume and displacement towards continuations. This is a clear directional shift that we want to go towards some sort of drawn liquidity higher, because look at this volume. As long as you guys account for your stop loss to be somewhere down here for any little retrace, I promise you guys we are going to go towards these draws in liquidity. Another thing you realize about my trades is that most of these trades are fast, and that is because I'm trading 2 LR, right? I'm on side with the market. Your trade should not be relatively slow unless you're taking like literally an overnight trade, like you're taking something on the 1 hour. Obviously you can account for that trade to be a few hours long. But if I have LR and I'm taking a trade on like the 5 minute or especially on the 1 minute, my trade really should not be that long. If I'm taking a trade on Asia, I can obviously expect it to be longer than normal, but especially on New York, my trade should literally be like 10, 15, max 20 minutes. I don't think I've really ever held a trade that long. But one thing I promise you guys is you guys will know if you are on the wrong side of your trade, because your trade should move relatively quickly, right? You can see even at my time of entry, even if we retrace off of this first high, just because the volume is so good, we're going to take out one of these draws in liquidity, right? So you can see we take it out fast. You can see we slow down, right? You can see we even retrace. If this wasn't manipulation and we kept going down, obviously I know that. Of course, we're following the volume and displacement, and we know we are at least going to take out one of these highs. If not, we're going to take out all of them because it's already engineered LRO. But with all that being said, guys, I hope you guys did enjoy today's video. If you guys did learn something, feel free to subscribe and like the video as well. And also, if you guys have any questions for me and would like to ask me in my free Discord, it's always linked down below. It's completely free and you guys can always change your mind later. But with all that being said, guys, I hope you guys did enjoy today's video, and I will see you guys in the next one.